All right. Welcome back to the Callahan Training Group podcast. I think this is season 3, episode 6. And I'm a little thrown off because I'll be totally honest with you guys. Last week, I recorded this kind of. It got real salty. So I just didn't post it. Like, I was a little too salty. Um, I don't want to say I was like in a bad mood or anything, but it came off as such. I was a little bitchy sounding. And it's funny because when I finished the podcast, my wife commented on it, and I went back and I was like, you know what? I just don't need to post a podcast with this much negativity. Now, that said, this podcast is going to be that topic. So it's not going to be any more positive. I'm just going to do my best to not be so salty this time. But I had a bunch of people reach out why I didn't post podcast last week, and that's why. So thank you for encouraging me to post it. I'm not going to because I don't want a couple of my rants out there. And I also don't want to edit it. I just do these. I don't know if you've noticed. I hit record and I talk until I'm done talking and I stop. It's free form. I'm not trying to edit stuff. I'm not trying to cut out silences. I'm not trying to do anything like that. It's a podcast. This isn't professionally. This isn't making me money. This isn't professional quality anything. I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. Honest to God, I just like to be involved in this whole sport and this whole industry. And right now we're buried in snow. So during the winter, when I have more time, I like to do more content, right? And just because I'm buried in snow doesn't mean everybody else isn't. So I see everybody out there shooting, going to awesome matches. The Caribbean Open is now done. There's a bunch of people down in Puerto Rico for that. I've seen people shoot the Florida Open already. I've just been buried in snow. Now, as far as that goes, a little update, a little plug action before I get into my saltiness. The ranges are back open up here, so private training has resumed. My weekly matches are back, and my monthly matches start again in March 15th. It is full currently. There's a wait list. People always drop out, so don't feel like you can't get in. The day before that is my competition fundamentals class. That's my kind of flagship, get people started or get people to level up in their competition journey. I focus on USPSA, or I can't even say that anymore. I focus on hit factor when we're doing that competition fundamentals class, but it's not for any specific sport. It's just competition. But that said, best competition there is hit factor shooting. So take that for what it's worth. But that'll be my first public class. The weekend before that, most of my people already know this, but I'm doing like a build day up at Double Eagle, where if you come and help me out, we're going to be spending Saturday and Sunday. I think it's like the 7th and the 8th of March. We're going to be spending those 2 days building walls, props. I'm going to be building some other surprise things. I don't want to surprise, or I don't want to spoil the surprise. But anybody who comes to that build day then shoots any of those monthly matches for free. Your first of all, your match fees waived. Second of all, you kind of get priority. Not kind of, you do get priority. I prioritize work, and I'm a big meritocracy guy. So if you come and show up and help, you better believe you're coming to my matches. That said, it is going to be a fun season. I have a bunch of stuff planned. I'm welcoming Bear Pelt on as my. It sounds funny, like, because again, sponsors is a weird way to put it. All my sponsors, I like to say this, and I remind people of this. All my sponsors are companies that I otherwise would be a consumer of. I was a consumer of Vortex long before they started talking to me. They treat me well now, but I was buying Vortex and still would use Vortex if they just didn't know who I was. I say the same thing about all the companies I work with. Bear Pelt is who I'm bringing on this year, the new one, and new to me, but new to the industry. Is as far as the USPSA industry goes, they're not new to the industry as far as shooting goes. They make my jerseys now. People are always looking for good jersey options, and out there are a bunch of China options and then very limited America options, and oftentimes the waits are incredibly long for these jerseys. So I was talking to Bear Pelt, and they make really, really nice apparel for the shooting world. Now, they come from the shotgun world. They come from the sporting clay world, specifically, as I know them. I know they do all kinds of clays. But my sister introduced me to them. She's a sporting clay lady. They made some awesome jerseys for me. They will also be making those sun shirts with the hoods that everybody's been rocking. They're going to be offering those. I'm beta testing a bunch of their stuff right now. You can go on my Instagram and see the pictures of the jerseys as soon as I have them in hand, which should be literally today's a Sunday, so it should be this week. Um, I'll post myself wearing them just so you can see like how they fit on people. And when I get more and more of their stuff in, and when they start posting links, I'll keep you guys updated. But that's Bear Pelt, BAREPELT, Bear Pelt. They make really, really cool stuff. I say stuff because I have some ideas. I don't want to spoil anything just yet. But they're my only new sponsor this year. But it's going to be cool to have some new jerseys, some fancy new stuff rocking. That's also kind of a fun thing for me to introduce because I've said it before and I'll say it again. I want to make USPSA and like the clay guys hold hands, and I want them to learn from each other because I think both sides can learn from each other. I think we as an organization can learn from them as an organization a lot. So I want to start pulling some of these companies across the line here and start to make more sense of it. But that's enough of the plug stuff. I'm really excited that my ranges are clear and that I can start training and shooting again. And now that I've been out there, this is kind of where my saltiness began. I'm going to flip the topics, and the second half of this podcast might bore some people. It's about SHOT Show and my thoughts about it. So I'll start with the more exciting stuff. And if the second half bores you, shut it off. So I've been out on the range a bunch. It's freezing still. So even though I have legitimately snowblowed the equivalent of like 4 football fields. That's what I was doing instead of Super Bowl. I was clearing snow off all my ranges, and I was getting it all usable again. And even though it's all usable again, it's still really freaking cold up here. So a high of 20, 25 some days, you get like an hour to shoot productively. You get about an hour of productivity out of your hands before they get so cold that you can't manipulate anything anymore. You could always shoot, but I don't want to sit out there and start low ready and just stand there and shoot. So I get about an hour of productivity. So in that hour of productivity, I'm not doing bill drills. I'm not doing 1 reload 1 or 2 reload 2 drills. Why? Because it's a waste of your fucking time. So the first half of this podcast is going to be kind of a continuation, or like we're going to say a different version of one of my old podcasts, which is Bill Drills Are Stupid. Bill Drills Are Stupid, that whole podcast, if you go back and listen to it, it was more focused on training. It was more focused on like the shooter going out and like wasting ammo as a shooter. And it was a much more forgiving stupid, as I'll call it. Like, I forgive you for you don't know what you don't know. You're ignorant to what's out there. So going and doing bill drills might just be what you see on Instagram. So that last podcast was focused on, hey, bill drills are stupid. Here's a better way to train. Now I'm revisiting this topic because bill drills are stupid. As an instructor, if you are demoing low ready bill drills with a ported 9mm, I can end it there, but I'll continue it with double stack 2011 gun, and you think that's fruitful for your students, or you think that's a helpful demo, like, oh, look how fast I can come and shoot ready up alphas, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to your students for clout for the internet. Like, you're doing it for views because the shot timer saying 0.12 between shots is cooler to you than actual progress. And I say that because you're not making progress doing that unless it's a very specific drill, and no real big shooter I know is doing 3-yard low ready bill drills. And I say that specifically because I saw a video out there, and I mean, you can message me and we'll talk names. I just don't like to throw names out publicly because it's not the point. I'm not trying to attack anybody personally. It's more the topic I want to talk about. But I saw an instructor in his own class like demoing low ready bill drills. And by the way, the group wasn't impressive either. It was still a spread of an entire alpha that they're shooting. And then I see the same guys doing demos of Ben Stoker's kind of track the A-zone drill, where the 2 barrels, 4 targets, but they're doing it low ready at, I'm not joking, 2 yards away with an exaggeratedly large target. And they're still doing it just as slow as some guys I know doing it at 7 yards with like IPSC targets for real. So it's starting to chap my ass to see this, like, hey guys, gather around and I want you to listen to how fast my gun is. That's basically what you're saying. Because what you're doing at 2 yards, it's not productive for training. It's not practical. It's not performance. It's not impressive or hard to do by any means. And you're not even mastering it in that. You're not doing it in impressive times. And you're not holding like these snake eye doubles. People are throwing doubles that look like my doubles at 12 yards. So I'm like, it's starting to chat my ass more because I take this seriously. Again, it's not a personal thing. I take this seriously. You're an instructor. This isn't the previous podcast where you're a shooter and you don't know what you don't know. You're claiming a level of mastery and a level of professionalism. You're taking people's money and gathering them around you. Not only are you kind of falsely inflating your sense of skill and lying to your students, you're wasting their time. The fact that I've seen multiple angles and multiple videos accounting for what's probably a cumulative hour of other students' time, filming the instructor do low ready drills at 2 to 4 yards, guys, like, you're wasting your students' times. And now what's funny about this is this guy, it chaps my ass a lot because this guy has taught at my range before, not under my flag, at Double Eagle. And I had 3 of my personal students who took the class, and they came back worse. And I mean it, measurably worse. They were USPSA shooters. They were at a class with me. They shot a match. They went to a 3-day, whatever the 45 college word level for the class, tactical, professional, special team, whatever. Like they took this cool class that cost them $800 in 3 days. And by the way, in that class was like 24 people to one instructor. Wrong, first of all. But they went up there, and one of the things they came back and quoted that pissed me off still to this day is your kung fu plus my kung fu equals no kung fu. So you're going to do it my way in this class, or you're not going to do it anyway because my way is the right way. Now, I don't know a single professional or successful shooter out there that maintains that they knew everything. They do it their way. If you don't use any, that's a retarded thing to say. It really is. It's the worst way to train. It's the worst way to think of yourself, that you have all the answers. And just because you're standing in front of a bunch of people doesn't mean you're Jesus with a gun. Like it was ridiculous. So they came back and they were telling me that, because I asked him why he was gripping the gun the way he's gripping, because it's wrong and it was inefficient and it was stupid. And he said, well, I got to do it like this because this is what he said. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Now, having students that I considered pretty average intermediate students get worse at a class, measurably so, is concerning. And that person is the person I'm talking about in these videos and doing all these fancy demos and everything. And that's why I can say with authority that you're not making your students better. You're wasting their time and you're wasting their money. I've never seen a student that comes from this instructor, or there's many instructors that are like this, that embody this. I've never seen their students come out and do well ever anywhere, measurably so. They don't. They just don't. Why? Because these instructors, you can pop in and you can look at their practice score and you can realize that even though they claim a certain level of mastery in their Instagram bio, and even though they have 80,000 followers or whatever it is, they've never shot above a 65% at a local match, let alone a major match, but a local match. So they've never shot above a B class at a match, yet they're teaching a bunch of guys who are B class who are hungry to learn. It's dishonest. And that's why I say I take this very seriously. I'm aware that I'm not going to be able to teach everybody in the world, but I'd like to be able to teach the people who come to me and the people locally to me without having to undo old bad habits because some guy with fancy marketing or a false sense of security and a big advertising budget got their money first. Like it sucks. I want people to train with everybody. And that's why I hate that your kung fu plus my kung fu crap. Train with me, train with JJ, train with Mace, train with everybody you can get your hands on. You're probably going to like one more than the other and jive with them, and you're going to keep coming back to them. Cool. Awesome. Good. There's also the convenience thing. I'm in the Northeast, so if you're within a 2-hour drive of me, it's a lot easier than driving to whatever, Florida or Kentucky or wherever else. So there's also that whole thing. If you happen to live in a convenient place and you have a range at your disposal, it is a little bit easier to get people to come to your classes. So I don't want to take that for granted. Like, I don't want it just because I have the range at my disposal. I really take what I do seriously. I take the quality of my instruction seriously. I'm out there testing it constantly. I'm out there showing it constantly. And then when I'm demoing in my classes, I'm certainly not at 3 yards chucking Charlies at low ready. Like I'm certainly going to be able to do things cold, but it's not going to be a portion of the class. I'm not going to gather y'all around me to film me. I'm not going to ask you to get a reel for my Instagram. This is not what we do, guys. You're not a content creator. You're not an influencer as bad as you want to be. If you're an instructor and you're instructing a class, you're a professional instructor that day. Fucking instruct, man. If you hire somebody to take media for you, that's great because that's their job to now do media and do all the edits. But if you're stopping your class to take videos for your Instagram and stuff like that, I immediately am talking shit about it because that is not what you should be doing. That's not what you should be doing. It's not proper. It's not correct. It's not correct. Do your job. At the end of a day of instruction, my phone is still at 100% battery because it's been in my car the whole time. And the only reason I might have used it was to take a video of one of my students to show them in slow motion what they were doing. It's silly for you to stop the class for people to take highlight videos for you to show off. Again, going back to what we were saying, 3-yard low ready build drills from a ported 9mm 2011. You're not only is it not impressive and you're lying to everybody, it's a false sense of like where you're going to go. I don't care if you could do 12 splits. I don't care if you do doubles at 25 sterile in a range. Come to a match and prove it or shut the hell up about it. And we've all had enough time in this last 2 years of performance training and USPSA stuff. We've all had enough time to show up at a match and try it, shoot a local and do all this and either prove where you're at, or if you haven't gone, it's like, well, you've proved that you're afraid and you can't back up your skill level. So that's kind of my whole salty bit about it. And again, it's not salty because it's personal. It's not like I don't like anybody personally because it's not a personal thing. It's that I take this very seriously. I take first of all, the hit factor shooting and training thing very seriously. And what is the precipice of that? It is efficiency. Like the very peak of what we're trying to do is efficiency. So somebody wasting your time and money to not get you where you want to go is a waste of efficiency. And that just pisses me off from the fact of I'm an efficiency guy. Now I've also taken lots of classes that I've driven home from pissed about because I realize that I waste my time, and I don't intend to do that anymore. And I still take 2-3 classes a year. I take higher level classes than me every single year. It's always my goal. 3 of them a year is my goal. If I can get to 1, that's like a minimum. But I know this year I have 2 already planned. I'm going to be training with JJ and somebody else that I'm not going to spoil yet. But it strikes me that these really, really high level shooters, these really good shooters, also run very efficient classes. They're not self-focused. And when they are doing demos, the demos are for the students. They're not for their Instagram. JJ is a great example of that. Mason's a great example of that. There's a bunch more. I'm not mentioning people for any reason, but like I'm very proud that I've hosted like 8 of these national level instructors, and I would love to take the classes again. Tim Herron, you can name them. I'm not forgetting anybody for any deliberate reason. Tom Castro was great. Steve Anderson's great. Like they all have their own lane that they're in. They all do their own thing great, and they're not sitting there wasting your time. They're all here's the big meeting point everybody can agree on. All these people live and breathe it. They take it seriously. They're not there wasting your money. They're not selling you snake oil. And I think that's the problem when I see these Instagram instructors, as I call them. And then the argument becomes, well, Sam, they've got 50,000, 60,000 followers, and they're sponsored by this gun company and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, yeah, wonderful. McDonald's sells 2 billion burgers a year, and not a meaningful calorie left that building. So if we want to talk about that kind of, I call it the McDonald's framework. If you want to be a McDonald's businessman, success is not what I'm arguing here. I'm arguing content. And nobody's going to argue that McDonald's isn't successful, but nobody is going to argue that the content of their burgers is meaningful. You get what I'm saying here? Like, sure, wonderful. You could buy a mansion and you could live in it, but your mansion is built on snake oil and hokum. And I'd rather live and breathe what I do. And I'd also rather be able to go out and show people that I can shoot at a very high level at matches and in front of them cold at any distance or time. I think that's a bigger deal to me, right? That's where it's funny, where it's not just like it is my attitude on this. It is my opinion on this. But what you'll start to say is I'm not calling anything out that's not provable. Like the best shooters in the world are some of the most humble, nice guys who aren't really focused on themselves, especially when they're teaching and taking your money. They're very focused on you. JJ's a great example of that. JJ's one of the best shooters in the world. He's been doing it longer than most. And if you've ever been in a JJ class, he will demo anything. He'll show you what to do. And there are demos. There are plenty of drills that he does demos for, as is proper. Every shooter or every instructor should be doing demos of what they're asking you to do. But it's not everybody stop, get their phones out and do this. It's use your eyes and let's talk about this demo. Let me do it incorrectly. Let me do it correctly. And let's talk about this. It's not let me do a highlight reel for Instagram. Let me do it 4 times and post the best one. Bullshit. So that was my salty bit about that whole thing. I'm really done with people showing off their skill. And let me be clear about this. I'm done with them showing off their skill set while they're shooting a $7,000 2011 that's 9mm imported. Showing off the gun is dope. I mean, those guns are sweet. I'm not taking anything away from that. There's some really cool ones out there now. The Fowler Industry 2011s are, they're so cool. I've seen so many Atlas, so many cool Infinities, of course, coming from where I am in the competition world, but like the guns are sweet. The guns do those things. They're really cool. In fact, I have a 9-year-old that I can I can have come out to my range and do low ready build drills with 12 splits because that's how easy it is to do with the 2011. And that's kind of why I started to get annoyed when I see these instructors demoing that like it's a skill thing. If you're demoing that because you're out proving how cool the gun is, I get it. That's awesome. If you're using that gun to demo your skill set, you're a joke. You're a joke. Grab a Glock and do it. Do it at 10 yards, do it at 11 yards, or please stop with the false sense of, first of all, charging people $800 for a class that says mastery when you don't leave even the 10-yard line. It's silly. It's silly. It's absolutely silly. There are some instructors that do both out there, and that's kind of why I laugh, because those instructors also don't have a 3-day class. They could teach it in 1 day. I kind of laugh about that 3-day class that I'm referring to. I teach all of it in the first half of my competition fundamentals class. The second half of my competition fundamentals class is applying that to actual stages and understanding how it works, not going home with a notebook full of nonsense. So efficiency is the name of the game, and it's certainly not proving how efficient you are to grip a 1911 from low ready and just split it blindly into a 3-yard target. Now that said, that was my salty bit about instructors, and kind of it bleeds into what I'm going to talk about, which is the SHOT Show should have been an email attitude. And now this whole thing, I titled that for a reason. That class that we're talking about could have been an email. You could have read all the things that this 3-day mastery guy and read it, or watched it on YouTube in 10 minutes and gone, got it, and walked away. You can't say that about a JJ class, a Ben class, Akita class. You can't say that. You can, all their stuff's available online too. So you can go and pick it through and watch it. But there's a huge different experience being there and actually being taught by these people than watching some of their content that they use to advertise. And that's not true for some other of these Instagram instructors. And I think it's funny. I think it's very funny. Now, this should have been an email because SHOT Show just like was a huge disappointment this year. And now it's been happening. It's kind of been like a bigger and bigger disappointment on the gun side of things. And I'm going to talk about that, the gun side of things. But there was really nothing that came out from SHOT Show that was new, novel, or blew anybody's mind, for the reason that all of the Instagram influencers now have their hands on all the guns that were released at SHOT Show. So now we're just playing pretend. Like now we're just playing industry show. You're just, I don't know if people are just using it to like write off taxes, or like they're just using it as their party for the year and they want to go to Vegas or whatever. But I don't know any company that's coming back from SHOT Show. Like, thank God that was a net positive, unless they have a new piece of gear or something out there. I was working with some SWAT guys that have invented like a new quick deployment system for SWAT stuff, and they're out there shaking hands and making their contacts and everything. But all these tables are ridiculous now. Now, there's a couple problems with SHOT Show. First problem with SHOT Show I have is there is no quality control or content control at all anymore. There's some holster out there that some guy that from Top Shot, the show that we all watched on what was it, on ESPN2 at the time. He was on Top Shot, so he was thought as a professional shooter. He's been televised as a professional shooter. Now, this guy is peddling a holster that is the most unsafe holster you could ever put in your pants. It doesn't have a full closed trigger guard. You could literally set it off at any time. And with his 50,000 followers or whatever, because it says Top Shot in front of his name and he was on TV once, he's peddling this holster that'll hurt somebody legally. Like, it'll literally hurt somebody. It's ridiculous. Now, that piece of shit holster should have been laughed at when the application came through, because this is a professional shooting industry show. That's a piece of shit. And whoever's making these decisions should have laughed at that guy and told him to go home. I have been at some of these, we'll say, event shows before. My wife does this art stuff. So we've been to 2 different versions of these art shows before. And what happens is the vendors, prior to the art show, and she did the biggest one in the country. She's not doing some of these small little ones. It was an art show, but it was the biggest one in the country she did. We drove down to Tennessee. It was like a 14-hour drive. We were literally, it's a whole thing. But you had to apply to the industry show. And the industry show only accepted a certain amount of each kind of art, we'll say. In our world, it would say, hey, we're only going to take 5 holster companies, 10 gun companies, 12 of these, and we're only going to take the best of the best. Now, they had a board of people who were actually involved in the industry, making the decisions on who was going to come to the industry, and there's our problem in the first place. Who is part of SHOT Show that is making the decisions for who's going to come to the show floor? Well, it must be an accountant, because they're just saying yes to everybody so that they can have 50,000 vendors, and I'm saying, I don't know, 5% of them are worth going to see. Now, the other part of SHOT Show that they tout is they're like 12 miles of tables and this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, because you have to walk through 11 miles of shit to get to the mile of good stuff. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. It's a waste of everybody's time. It's a waste of event space. It's a waste. Now, I'm an efficiency guy. It's a fucking waste. It should have been an email. Now, I have a problem with seeing like those crappy holsters for 2 reasons. It's a piece of shit, as in performance wise, and like I always joke it's one of those products that's a solution in search of a problem. There was no problem. Your training was the problem. You created a solution to something that wasn't a problem. It's stupid. But that guy's tabled next to a bunch of other holster companies. I shoot for Ghost Holsters. They have inside the waistband concealment holsters for sale available at that. So if you ran into that stupid Top Shot booth and bought one because you were uneducated and you were walking down the lane and then you walked into Ghost, well, you'd be pretty pissed, wouldn't you? That sucks. So I think it's stupid to put these crap hokum tables next to Ghost and next to Double Alpha and next to Red Hill. And by the way, charge them the same amount. Like, that's ridiculous. So the tables have also gotten too expensive that the small companies who like really do have good stuff, They can't afford to get up onto the main floors and the main places. They're in the corners. They're hidden away with these other crap products, and the good products that don't really need marketing, like Glock and Smith and Wesson, and they should be there. They should have tables. I'm not saying they shouldn't be there, but like they have the biggest displays, but nobody's unfamiliar with these companies. They don't need more marketing. And in fact, all of these companies are at SHOT Show debuting guns that me and 15 other people have been shooting for 10 months. They're not secrets. They're not new. I'm not even an influencer. I'm not sponsored by anybody. Nobody gave me shit. I've had a Gen 6 Glock for like a month and a half. I have thousands of rounds through it. They're not debuting it. That's ridiculous. Nobody's debuting anything at SHOT anymore. Now, the funny thing is, there is one company that did, and I'll talk about them. I'll jump past that for a second. But my big joke is, other than those main companies, there seems to be this like influencer handshake that we're all going to jump on one. And I think it was like Zermatt is the name of the company this year. All the influencers who don't shoot matches anymore and don't shoot competition anymore and just have YouTube and a lot of followers and just sell shit now, they all like handshake agree that look at this gun. This gun's the coolest gun because of this, this, and this. So he gives it to 6 buddies. They push it through all their YouTube and Instagram channels. They sell hundreds of them. They get a free one. I don't know whatever deal they're doing. I don't give a shit. But it's like everybody's then drawn to this. They all have this like gang up on this gun is the coolest gun and everything else sucks. And nobody else seems to care about anything else that was out there. Now, what's funny is I don't think the Instagram influencer gun of the year, which seems to be that Zermatt gun right now, is special at all. It's just that these guys like spending money on guns because it's like buying a sports car to them. And they like having sports cars parked in a garage and none of them can drive worth shit. Now, Stoker's the one example to that, or the one exception to that. He could shoot at a very high national level. Everyone else that I see living that life that I'm talking about right now, you're a B-class shooter at best, and I don't want to hear from it unless you come out and fucking classify and actually go to nationals. Shut up. I don't care about your feeling about the recoil impulse on this gun, and it's so light and this. I don't care. Who cares? You've got a fucking safe full of them. You go out on some range with more camera equipment than guns and ammo, and you sit there and you record stuff and you make an edit, and awesome, great. So you think the gun is good. This one's snappy, and I don't care. No one should care, but we do because you have 40,000 YouTube or Instagram followers or whatever it is. So it's silly that like this conclave of influencers have kind of like stolen everybody's attention. Because while, by the way, that gun I'm talking about, and there's nothing wrong with the gun, by the way, it's fine, it's a cool gun, but it also wasn't debuted at SHOT Show. It's been out. People have been shooting it. I've seen it on YouTube. It's not a secret. The gun that I skipped over just a minute ago, there was a guy out there. Now it's funny because this is where the influencer stuff gets ugly too. It's like it was a Turkish company or Turkish gun, and all the influencers are going to start, Turkish piece of shit. Well, okay, I know some of the Turkish shotguns out there don't have the greatest reputation, but Canik seems fine, right? There are some guns coming out of Turkey that are totally fine. We also have a bunch of ammo coming out of Turkey too, but separate conversation. But I went to my FFL like a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, right as they got back from SHOT. Like they were back for 4 days. And I was going there to transfer out, funny enough, one of the Walthers that I had sitting around. As I said, I'm keeping one of them, but I got rid of the match gun that I had. While I was there, he knows I like what I like. He knows how I feel about guns and new stuff. And he goes, hey, did you see this? Did you hear about this? Didn't see it, never heard about it. What the hell are you talking about? It was called the Ranger Arms. It was the RA9 Sport was the name of the gun. Now, I didn't hear about it, and he said Turkish, so instantly my red flags went up, but he goes, no, just check this out over here. And he pulled out what looked like a Glock had relations with a CZ Shadow 2, and they out-popped a striker fire version of a CZ Shadow 2. And I'm looking at this gun, and I'm going, this is weird. This is kind of rad. How much is this gun? Why aren't people paying attention to it? Like, is it like $8,000? He's like, no, man, it's like $700, $800. What kind of magazines it takes? And he was like waiting for me to ask that question. He goes, dude, CZ 75 mags. So if you have CZ mags, they're there. The Mekgar mags work. All of those CZ option mags work. You don't need to get a new set of stuff or a niche set of springs or anything. Nope, it's all there. It works. And I'm sitting there in and mind you, it's a striker fire pistol. I'll get to the top end of it. So talking the bottom end of it, magazines. Well, hey, these grip panels look interesting. Are these also CZ grip panels? Because I didn't like the texture of the grip panels, but now I'm looking at them and I'm going, they're CZ grip panels, aren't they? And lo and behold, I messaged the company. Yes, sir, those are CZ grip panels. So all those lock grip panels and all those spicy VZ grippy grip panels will stick on it. Interesting. And now it looks like it'll fit in the CZ holster, and from my understanding, it'll fit in the I forget which gun it was. It was a big chunky metal gun. It might even be the Walther, honestly, but it will fit in a holster. I mashed it in one while we were in the gun shop. But I was like, okay, wow. So it'll even fit in holsters that are out there. The magazines will fit on somebody's belt. So this isn't a huge investment if you're going to try a new gun. It was already pre-cut with the plate on it for an RMR. Again, not a huge deal because most people are shooting RMR footprint things, or we have Arise manufacturing out there that will quickly make a plate for a quality plate. I just threw their Gen 6 plate on my Gen 6 Glock. It's way better than everybody else out there. But they'll throw a plate out there for options. I was like, all right, so you can shoot it stock irons. By the way, it comes with beautiful irons. It comes with the fiber optic red front, a blacked out set of rears, just like most of us competition shooters like. They have a threaded barrel version, but I don't care for that. They have a non-threaded barrel version too. Now, I go and I pull the trigger, and I literally was like, whoa, I like ND'd it in the shot. Not literally, I was dry firing it, but I was like, holy shit, I didn't expect that trigger to go off. He goes, yeah, feel the reset. Pin the trigger, rack the gun, let the gun off. 4 millimeters of reset. Now, he told me 4 millimeters. I believe him because of how little travel there was in my hands, but I couldn't believe at this point, I'm holding this gun. I was like, when did this come out? He looked at me, he goes, at SHOT Show. I met this guy at SHOT Show. I ran into him at SHOT Show. Nobody was talking to him. I talked to him. I ordered a bunch of these. This is the first one I have in the shop. It's awesome, right? Took it apart. The most robust trigger group I've ever seen of any pistol. It looks like somebody took a Timney and made it like 30%, 50% beefier in that all the metal is solid pieces. So it doesn't look chintzy. It doesn't look cheap. It doesn't look like it's going to break. It doesn't need to be tuned because the trigger's amazing as is. It's got that reset spring kick that people like from the Walthers or the Timney triggers and the Overwatch triggers where it kicks back. It's seemingly the only reason that people aren't shooting it because they don't know about it. And that's kind of why I was pissed off and this whole podcast kind of crashed together. It seems like all the Instagram instructors, because it was Turkish and they all agreed they're going to go try to find the most expensive gun they can spend their money on or the new alien thing that was out there, whatever. They're going to all go and prove how much money they make on YouTube and how much money they make teaching these classes. And they're not going to worry about actual performance anymore because they're not shooting matches. So they don't give a shit. They're just collecting guns like guys that are collecting cars. I think it's kind of a disservice that these YouTube gunfluencer people are not competing anymore because they'd be singing a different song. They 100% would be. And they could say, no, they won't. But then shoot a competition. Shoot a couple this year. Go to a major. And let's watch things change. But different argument. What I want to talk about is it's a disservice that all these people are going to SHOT Show listening to all these people with big numbers on Instagram, and we're missing the better things out there. Guys, this is a small industry. Stop I don't know why we're trying to treat this like it's a big, huge. There's not that many people that shoot competitively. There's not that many people that shoot for real. I know millions of people own firearms in this country. What is the crazy number? It's like 330 million people. But everybody owns a car too. 1% of them can drive well. You know, like it's so silly. So if you're listening to this and if you're going to SHOT Show and if you're part of the industry, you're part of the 1% of people who actually like matter in the industry. Stop listening to a smaller subset of people who also, by the way, aren't competing. They also aren't influencing, like they're not helping develop guns. They're not helping. They're just bitching to their thousands of followers and then buying another gun and bitching about that one and never competing or anything. So it's like, I just don't care. Like, I just don't care to be influenced anymore by these people. SHOT Show could have been an email. That's the big thing. All these fancy Instagram instructors and all these fancy instructors I was harping on at the beginning of this, you could have just emailed me or made a 2-minute Instagram post and we would have been done. And we would have wasted way less time than we did now. SHOT Show, same thing. We could add an email list of here's the 4 new guns out that nobody's seen yet. Here's the 20 that everybody has seen, but here's their MSRP now that we're going to keep that because we've been keeping that secret. Like, cool. I didn't see any real optics out there that were new, that were debuted at SHOT, that weren't already debuted on Instagram or leaked. Quote unquote leaked. Oh yeah, we're leaking stuff because we're that. Shut the hell up. It's marketing, it's advertising. You're using the internet to sell things anymore. SHOT Show's not really driving sales. It was a waste of time. Now, SHOT Show should have been called Suppressor Show because if you wanted to go and actually get a cool experience and education, it wasn't in firearms anymore or holsters or gear. You could have gone to any USPSA guy's page and asked them what's cool on that. What was cool is all the new suppressors and stuff that popped out. So that was the one thing. Like SHOT Show should just be suppressor show from now on, or we'll call it like, I don't know, the Form 1 show, because it's just like all these other guns you could just get online now. You could buy it. It's not a secret anymore. We'll just send it to our FFL. We'll buy it. We'll trade it, whatever. The cool things now seems to be, well, cold air intake suppressors seem to be like the rage this year. Really cool. I'm already in line for one for a. In line sounds weird. I already ordered it. It's not like a line I'm waiting in. But I like Griffin Arms cans, so I'm getting one of their cold air intake cans. Now the other thing I see pretty cool by Griffin and a bunch of other companies was 3D printing has come a long way in the metal side of things. So there's a lot of these cans that have these crazy internal, like, looks like a spider web of metal that you otherwise could never manufacture of in the past. So that's where it's the actual like technology is making jumps. It's changed. There's some actually some big innovation going on in the suppressor world. Now, what's cool about this is they're not getting crazy expensive either. Like, they're getting less expensive, even though they're getting cooler. They're getting more and more availability. They're getting kind of all the good things are happening to them. They're easier to attach to guns now. Now, because of the new law change, they're easier to get now. The Form 1 is free. You just got to apply for it. So it's kind of a nice thing. So cold air intake suppressors were my big, like, ooh, that's nifty, because I like less moving parts and I like serviceable. So having a normal suppressor that you could take apart, still service, just had a cold air intake that affected its usage, I thought was cool. Everything seems to be flow through now because it's more comfortable for the shooter. And it's not, now with the increase in technology, we're not like taking away from the decibel level effectiveness. It's cool. It's this cool place we are with suppressors. Now, the one suppressor that I saw that's like every time I've shown it to people, they're mind blown by it, or I talk about it and you already know about it. It's that Scientific Industry. What was it? It's like Scientific something. I don't want to screw them because it's a really cool company. It also Strategic Sciences. That's it. Now, if you haven't heard of them, check them out, because that was one of the cooler suppressors I've seen out there. I'm going to show it on my phone like an idiot to the podcast. So if you're just listening, sorry, I'll describe it. But what's in this is it looks like alien technology, and they literally their little tagline is alien technology or alien concepts, and I like that because it looks cool. They didn't say, hey, we're going to make a product that looks like everybody else and put themselves in a box immediately. They started with, let's do something that's kind of outside the box. And whether they did that intentionally along the way, I don't know. I don't know the story, but this thing looks different. It looks really cool. It looks like something you'd see on like Predator or Alien gun. Now, the cool thing about it is it's kind of built in flash hider. It's built in. So there's like we'll say a clip-on device, more or less. Now, the cool thing about it that I've seen from because I don't know a lot about suppressors. I'm not some suppressor. I'm not big on decibel level and pressure. Blah, 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 blah. I'm dumb. Gun go boom. I put suppressor on. Gun go pew, pew. That's what I know about suppressors. That one makes it go pew, pew the most. I have seen really cool videos now of people taking just like their normal competition setup, not some suppressed setup, not some gas down setup, their normal competition setup, throwing that Strategic Sciences suppressor on there, and it sounds like a damn staple gun now. Literally, a 5.56 gun that's otherwise really loud, annoying, rattly, and overgassed now sounds very pleasant, and you could shoot it without hearing protection pretty easily. And I think that's a pretty cool thing that we're starting to get into these cans that are not, they don't need a host device. Like, they don't need some special host, where these suppressors are great, but if I need a $2,000 suppressor that needs a very specific gun that optimizes it, that I would never use the gun in another place, that means the suppressor price is really the price of the suppressor plus the gun. Because if the gun's not useful anywhere else, then it's all a suppressor to me. Now, that's cool, because what I like about the Griffin cans is I very specifically chose a flow-through can that has a muzzle device attachment that is a really, really solid brake. So, by the way, I like brakes if I'm shooting competition. If I want them less of a signature, I'll put a fucking suppressor on it. I don't see an in between. Now, I also don't agree with the whole shoot a flash hider and be a man thing, because I'm like, well, we're building 5.56 rifles. If you're going to build it easy to shoot. Don't build it hard to shoot. One's not more expensive than the other. Just put the right muzzle device on it. If you're going to be shooting a suppressor, it's also better to have a brake inside of it. It does less damage to the can. So I see it as no loss. I have a brake that a can slips onto. Now, the reason I like that, the reason I mentioned that, is because I don't have a specific host weapon. I bought a bunch of those Griffin brakes because those brakes work really super well. I threw them on 3 different rifles. Obviously, my home defense rifle, that, like, we'll say the primary host of the suppressor, but my home defense rifle is just an 1125 that I use for everything. Like, It's a tiny little fun gun that I just use for absolutely everything. PCSL, home defense, CQB, like whatever. But my competition guns, I have a 14 and a 16, just normal 5.56 carbine length gas system, like just a banger for competition, mostly for just PCL thrown into dump boxes and stuff. I have a brake on it that I could slap a suppressor on and suddenly it's hearing safe. It's the best muzzle device you'll ever use, because everybody tries to argue about like what's the best muzzle device out there. Buy a fucking suppressor. It's the best muzzle device there's ever been. Barely any point of shift and impact with the 7.62 can, which is cool too, because I have a 7.62 flow can through there. But here's what's funny is I just realized I'm looking up at the timer. I just spent 10 minutes talking about fucking suppressors here. That was the only thing that came at a SHOT Show that was interesting. That's the only thing that interested me. That was the only thing that was like at a SHOT Show that I was like, oh, that's rad. That's a cool thing to see. That's a cool thing to see. That's a cool thing to see. Everything else was, it's not that it wasn't cool, but we've already seen it. It wasn't new. Or in my opinion, that one gun that I mentioned, it's, again, I'll give him credit again. It's the Ranger Arms RA9 Sport. That gun was missed. It was just missed by SHOT Show, and I found out about it popping into a gun shop later on. So now what's funny is didn't see it at SHOT Show, and then you see it later on. I think it's like Strike Industries, who everybody likes to shit on, is releasing a launcher for, I believe it's gas. It's a 37 millimeter launcher, but out of nowhere comes them. They didn't wait for SHOT Show to debut it. They just did it on their Instagram a couple days after SHOT, if I'm recalling correctly here. So SHOT Show is kind of a big waste of our time now, in my opinion. A lot of this gunfluencer, Instagram influencer stuff, I challenge people to say this. In what other industry has a group of influencers that all agree with each other? When has that ever been a net positive to the industry? I can't name one. I don't know why, as gun people, we're trying to make that our industry. Why are we trying to like shame a bunch of people out of the industry and only ride with these 4 guys who do a podcast together, or these 5 guys who have a training group together? Like, and I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but I don't understand this whole like I'm in their camp and nobody else's camp, everybody else can fuck off, because all we're doing is creating these little silos and we're not actually driving innovation. We're not driving anything. We're hurting the industry as a whole. And it's just, I mean, I don't know another industry that does well like that. I just don't. Part of why this gun industry was so cool is because when I got into it 10 years ago, everybody was so friendly and like cross-pollinating everything. We all wanted to share ideas, share training, share this, share that. Now, obviously, there's always going to be the like FUDs versus performance shooter divide. That's always there. I get that. We're winning them over more or less. But within the performance shooters, it's kind of stupid that we're like gathering in camps now. Like, oh, I agree with these guys. I like this training group. I like this training group. Because again, why does it matter? We're talking about performance, measurable performance. You know where you can measure performance? On the competition field. So if you don't compete, I don't really give a fuck about your opinions anymore, because they're not applied to anything. I don't care what a non-professional driver thinks about the quality of a tire, because he doesn't understand its application to a track. Just like I don't care about some influencer on Instagram or YouTube who doesn't compete talking about a muzzle device, a trigger, or an optic, because he doesn't really understand the performance outside of his comfy little lab or his little YouTube studio or within his 78th take that he finally posted on YouTube. Like, I don't care, man. It just, I hope more people start forming that opinion. Why do you listen to a fighter who doesn't fight? You wouldn't. We don't listen. We make fun of those guys on Instagram who do the push and touch karate and the energy karate, right? We make fun of them. Why? Because they don't actually fight. They just talk all this nonsense. They don't fight. Let's start holding people to that. Let's be a little bit more protective. Let's be a little bit more harsh about our criticism on performance shooters. If you're going to talk about, hey, here's a new product, if you guys have never seen it, this is what I think about it, that's awesome. But you talking about why this one's better than that one in performance, and this is the best gun and that gun sucks. We're real professional shooters, like the guys who actually are out there doing it professionally, shooting at 90% and above at major matches and like really doing it. We're laughing at you. It's funny. We laugh and we continue onwards. And we laugh and continue onwards because, again, we actually are out there like training, competing, and dry firing. I'm not producing YouTube content, so I don't have time to argue with you online. I got to get back to my students or back to the range. So again, this is a salty one. I know it was a salty one. This is less salty, as I mentioned, than the original version of it. I was a little saltier in the original one. I was a little bit meaner. But I covered everything I wanted to cover. I don't have a time limit for any of these. I don't really care. Again, as I mentioned, this is free form. I just have some things I would like to talk about. I just want to stay on the internet talking to you guys and your algorithm, because as much as I hate this machine and this Instagram crap and all this kind of stuff, I'm also not going to bite my nose to spite my face. Like, I'm not going to ignore it because I hate it, because this is where everybody is and this is where all the eyes are. So here I am in your algorithm. Don't forget about me is basically what I'm doing right now. That said, my ranges are back open again. So if you're in the Northeast and you're looking to train not at some standing indoor range, I got you. We're back open. I have full ranges open again. I have full stages, full matches going again. My weekly matches are back. But if you know how my training works, that means there's a match set up on Monday or Tuesday. Wednesday, there's a match. Thursday, I teach on those stages or teach within those targets on those stages. Friday, there's a match. Saturday, Sunday, same business as I teach on those stages within those stages. So for a very novice shooter, we're just going to isolate a couple targets and work that target array. But as we get better and better, I can start using stages and training on the stages. So that's where I'm finally back to up here. The might be a little bit cold outside, but I have a warming tent now and I have a little propane heater. We can get some work in. It's kind of time though to understand that even if we spend an hour outside, any more than that's not going to help. So I hope everybody's really got their dry fire dialed in. I've done a podcast already this season on kind of, we'll say, optimizing your dry fire and doing that kind of stuff. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns about that kind of stuff, that's what I'm here for. I'm a coach in this. I love talking about this. I consider myself a personal trainer in this, where that you go to a gym and you work with a personal trainer, he's going to work with you like I would on a range. But if you get home and you text your personal trainer about stretching or diet or anything, like you ask me about dry fire or anything, I'm going to answer you. I have answers. That's the whole point of hiring a personal trainer, right? I'm not a Zumba instructor. I don't take your money on that 20. I don't take 24 people's money and preach at you for a prescribed amount of time and then send you home. I don't do that. I am here to help. I would like to help. So even if you can't make it out to the range right now, if you're just in dry fire mode, I also find that that's where a lot of mental and visual, we'll say, fortitude is built. Some of the best shooters in the world come from the Northeast, and I will remind us that again. I got yelled at because in the last podcast I said Jay Beal was from New Hampshire. He's not. He's from Maine. He's from further north. He's from the colder north. Um, but Mason is from New Hampshire, and I know a bunch of Kyle Narcom and all the PGC guys up there in Massachusetts. I mean, it's colder there than it is here, and those guys are hardcore hammering it all the time. So I find the best shooters in the world come from some of the colder areas. It's not exclusive, but if it was just warmth equals good shooters, then Texas would have all the professional shooters in the world, and they don't. So get to dry fire and get to work. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about the dry fire and the work like that, hit me up. If you would like to hear anything mentioned in this podcast that I haven't gotten to yet, let me know. Now, the next podcast I'm kind of excited about, I have a police officer coming on, a police officer that I found like 2 seasons ago. We ran into each other because he came out to one of my matches at my club here, and we jived well together. And what ended up happening is he's really taken the influence of USPSA, hit factor, and performance shooting, and he has driven it into his department because he's one of the heads of training of his department. And I think it's going to be a fantastic conversation to have, to really talk about what I think is great training and why I think the performance and the hit factor training is great. Everybody knows what I think for the most part. But what's really cool is we're going to have a guy who's been on the job for a very long time, seen a lot of different things, and used this kind of training. He's going to be able to really speak to the reason why I think there is a lack of training in the police offices and the police officers everywhere, but why it should be demanded that you guys are doing hit factor training at the very minimum. So I've got some fun stuff coming up. But again, any other topics you want to hear from, please let me know. I love talking about this kind of stuff. As it's getting warm, I will warn you, once March 15th, 16th comes around, that's my first match of the year. I'm going to be on the range. I'm going to be gone. The YouTube channel slowly kind of peters down to just videos of shooting and things like that. But I'm going to try this year, to do a podcast at least once a month so I don't totally drop off for months at a time in the podcast. I'm going to try to center them around what's going on that month, kind of recap the month and recap the majors that are going on. But I'm saying try because there's no promises. It's all going to be, we'll see. But thank you guys for sticking with me. And as always, as I always like to see, don't forget to dry fire. Now I have my intro stuff back.